Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. As you can see from the title of this video, this is going to be a what I eat in a day as while I filmed this video, I was 16 weeks pregnant, but I think by the time it goes up, I'll be 17 weeks pregnant, and I'm also still breastfeeding my 1-year-old. Jude will be till the 11th. She will be 15 months tomorrow on January 12th. Anyway, I decided to do a little voiceover for this video. I haven't done a voiceover for a while, and I think it's kind of fun to switch it up. So the first thing I had around, I think I started making it around like 7:10. Wanted to make like a little yogurt and fruit bowl, but I realized I didn't have granola, which is what I usually like to add to my yogurt and fruit bowls. So I said, you know what? I can make some little quick stovetop granola, no problem. It's super easy and actually tastes so fresh because you're making it immediately. Anyway, so the first thing I did was add to a pan on like medium heat, probably like medium low, was about half a tablespoon of butter. And then once the butter all melted up, I added half a cup of old-fashioned rolled oats. So you don't want to use like quick oats for granola. I probably could, but it's not going to give you like that granola consistency. After the oats have toasted a little bit, it's going to depend on how high your heat is, but I think it took about like 2-3 minutes for me. You want to add whatever like granola additions you want. I'd recommend adding a crunchy element. So for me, I did walnuts and then shredded coconut, but you could do like any nuts that you like. You could do cacao nibs, that's a nice crunchy element. And then I think you want to add probably like a chewy element. So for me, I did raisins. You could also do dried cranberries, you could do dried apricots, kind of any dried fruit would work as a nice chewy element. And then you want to add like a quote unquote superfood. I hate using that term, but everyone knows what that means. So like hemp seeds is what I use, but another superfood you could use is chia seeds, cacao nibs, which I mentioned for a crunchy element, so you could do two things in one. And then goji berries would also work, and then you would also be covering your chewy element. After you add all your additions, you can add as much as you want and personalize your granola, which is the best part about making homemade granola rather than buying it store-bought. You know, sometimes when you see a store-bought granola and you're like, I want that one, but I don't like that one thing in it, you can make your own and do whatever you want. After everything's kind of toasted up, come together, covered in the butter, you want to add 2 tablespoons of a sweetener, and the sweetener is also going to act as your binder. So it does have to be a liquid sneaker. It does have to be a liquid sweetener. So I use 1 tablespoon of honey and then 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. You can also just do like 2 tablespoons honey, 2 tablespoons maple syrup. You could use agave, you could use coconut nectar. Again, whatever liquid sweetener you prefer or have on hand. I just decided to do half honey, half maple syrup to add a little bit more depth of flavor. And yeah, ideally you want to let the granola, once everything's mixed up together, you want to let it cool down. Oops, one thing I didn't mention, turn off the heat before you add in your liquid sweetener. Once everything's come together, ideally you want to let it cool down for like a minute or two. I did not have time and I was hungry, so I let it cool, not for a minute or two. You want to let it cool down for like 30 minutes or so. I did not, so I let it cool down for like a minute or two, add it to my yogurt. It was still yummy, it's still delicious. So if you don't feel like waiting like I didn't, it will be fine, but it's going to be more like that granola crunchy clump texture the longer you let it sit. I actually just had the leftovers like 5 minutes ago, and it was more like a granola texture, but the flavor was the same. So now it was time to actually assemble my little yogurt bowl. So I use Greek yogurt. I think this is 2% or whole. I buy full or fat yogurt primarily for Jude Girl, but I'm fine eating it as well. And then I decided to add some blueberries and then a very special treat, some passion fruit. Passion fruit is so expensive unless you're buying it frozen, but I wanted to treat myself. So I got some over the weekend and I love passion fruit. It's like sour and also sweet if you've never tried it before. Then you kind of get like little pops of texture, kind of like pomegranates, like how you have like the little seeds. Added my granola on top, and then it was time to eat, and it was so yummy. The next thing I had was an apple when I was on my way to an appointment for baby boy, and then when I got home, I had another snack. I had some of these Fuego chips from Siete. I like the ingredients in these. They are still chips, obviously, but I just like that. I know when the ingredients are a bit better. The same thing with the ranch, still ranch, but the ingredients are like I know what they are for the most part. And if you watch my first trimester update video, you know that ranch is one of my cravings right now. Jude girl also wanted a snack, so she had some crackers. I did let her try the Fuego chips, but she was not into them. She did like the ranch though. She was like, to the ranch. Then about 2 hours later, it was time for my nap time meal, aka the meal I have while Jude girl is napping. And lately I've been loving baked beans on toast, but I do also add avocado, and sometimes I have like some canned sardines, which I'm not sure many people are a fan of. Sometimes I have canned sardines on the side. I think it's yummy. You can like what you want. Jude is awake right now because I'm like prepping everything, and then I put her down and then I eat it. Um, Corey's holding her, about to take her up for a diaper change before her nap. So yeah, I start with 2 pieces of sourdough toast, and I do toast them up, but I like my bread like lightly toasted. I don't want a bunch of crunch, just a little bit hard. And then I do add butter before the avocado. You might be thinking, avocado's fatty enough. Avocado's creamy. Why do you need butter? You need the butter. Every time I make it without butter, when I'm just being lazy and trying to move quickly, I regret it because it's like the butter is seasoning the bread almost. Then you add your avocado on top, of course, some salt, pepper, put in your hot, warmed baked beans, and it's so yummy, so filling. You get your proteins from the beans, you get your fat from the butter, the avocado, you get your carbs from the bread, also from the beans. It's delicious and keeps me full for a while. And I usually, since getting pregnant, once I eat this, I watch like a show, and then I nap for the rest of Jude's nap. And finally, to round out the day, it is time for dinner, and I decided to make a tofu veggie green curry. Usually, I actually make red curries, but I decided to switch it up and do a green curry because I noticed if I get a curry out, I prefer green curry, but then I make red curries at home, so it wasn't really making sense. Anyway, you saw that the tofu I was using is from Wildwood, and it is the high protein tofu. I like to use this tofu, or there's a sprouted tofu. Is it from the same brand? It might be the same brand. I find that the high protein tofu is actually like more dense and not as watery. So I still press it out a little bit just for good measure, but I actually don't think you really need to press out high protein tofu. Any other tofu, you definitely want to press out well if you're trying to make it crispy. Then I cut the tofu up in little cubes. You can do smaller cubes than I did. You can do like rectangular cubes if you want. I just like this shape specifically for curry so that it holds the tofu holds its form a bit better and stays crispy better. Yeah, I just saute it on a pan with a little bit of olive oil. You could also air fry the tofu if you want. You could bake in the oven. You could deep fry it. You could shallow fry it. I'm basically just sauteing it, which does take a little bit more time because you have to like flip each side if you really want each side to get crispy. I'm not like super exact about each side getting crispy because it's gonna go in a curry. If you want to make this curry, you could also use any other plant-based protein. Like I usually actually make curries with chickpeas. I think that's super good. And then you could do an animal protein too. I think that curry tastes better with plant-based protein. Anytime I've had a curry with animal-based protein, I just feel like it's not as flavorful, which is kind of surprising, I feel like, but I just think it tastes better. So yeah, if you're not a fan of tofu or you just prefer to avoid soy, you could always do chickpeas. I think you can probably hear Jude. While the tofu is crisping up, you want to start prepping your veggies. So I always start with onion. Sometimes I do garlic, sometimes I don't. And then I think I show the other veggies later. But yeah, I was trying to show you kind of what the tofu looks like once it's done. But you want to remove it from the heat and set it aside to add in later so it stays crispy while you're making the rest of the curry. And then you should have enough oil left over in your pan to just continue cooking everything. If you don't, you can always add a little bit more. But I added my onions in, sauteed that for a bit, and then you want to add some coconut milk in. I like this brand of coconut milk because it's just the most simple coconut milk I have found. And then you want to either make your own curry with actual spices, or you can just use like a little jarred curry like I am. This is usually what I do. I think it just makes it like, I feel like when you're making homemade food, you can go all out sometimes, and I actually love doing that. I love cooking something fully from scratch, like taking hours to do, especially over the weekend when I have a little bit more time. But during the week, I'm just trying to put a meal together that's nourishing but also quick. And so using little like I don't know, cheat sheets, hacks like this, like using like a jarred curry can really save you some time. I like to bring the coconut milk and the curry paste to a boil, and then I lower it down to a simmer, and while it's simmering I prep the rest of my veggies. So I did this baby corn, which honestly was not the best canned baby corn I've had, and then I also did bok choy, kept it simple. You can do broccoli too. Broccoli's really good in curries. I've also done like bell pepper, super good. Let everything cook for a bit, and then you add your tofu back in, let everything simmer for a bit, and you are ready to eat your curry. I recorded a little clip of Jude's food because Jude eats whatever dinner we're eating, just with slight variations, so you have an idea. And I'm happy to do like a what my baby eats in a day. I think I have one on my channel when she was much younger. Anyway, I served mine and Corey's curry with some rice, and then the only other thing I tried to eat today was I was craving a bao bun, and then by the time it arrived, 'cause I ordered it, baby boy said, "We are not eating this," so I could not eat it, and so this ended up being the last thing I ate this day. That happens to me often. It happened a lot when I was pregnant with Jude, actually a lot more when I was pregnant with Jude, where I would order something, then by the time it came, it was just a no-go, but it's definitely happened a few times with baby boy. But yeah, so that is everything I ate this day while 16 weeks pregnant. I'm now 17 weeks pregnant, and while breastfeeding a toddler. Jude is 15 months old. I hope you liked these little meal ideas. I hope it gave you some meal inspiration, and I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me.